I want to clarify um, my expectations for project one. I'm getting some questions about it, which means that I have failed in being able to explain that. So we're going to do a quick demo, and then additionally, I'm going to show some previous students' work. And hopefully that will be able to help you in your ideation. Additionally, in regards to the word observationally within this project, observationally, when it comes to drawing, means from real life. So you're going to go out, maybe you're going to a coffee shop or just even in your house, and try to find 1 point, 2 point, 3 point perspective if you're lying on your back and looking up, or even maybe you're at the top of a parking garage and looking down at some other buildings. Just trying to kind of put your place, figure out your vantage point, and then seeing how, maybe you can influence your viewer to be in that same position. That's sort of the intention of a lot of artwork, is to put the viewer in a position that you want them to be in, so they're experiencing either what you've seen or what you want them to see. So let's talk over how to render in perspective. Once you get the hang of this, all drawing is, everybody can draw. Even if you feel like you can't draw, you can draw. It's just rules. It's just rules and practice. That's how you get really good at drawing. It's not some ingrained ability to just naturally draw. So that's a fallacy. So really, you just have to keep doing it, and practice makes perfect, that old adage. So what you're going to do, piece of paper, pencil, and this should help you with your 5 preliminary sketches as well. Those 5 sketches they don't have to be your final rendering, but they should be leading up to a final drawing. So, that's kind of where you're making your mistakes, is that those 5 preliminary sketches, you're figuring out maybe a 1 point perspective and a 3 point perspective don't really go together. Or, what is the narrative, excuse me, that you're trying to convey too. So, think outside the box, don't be super critical of yourself. Just be really compassionate. Anything that you do is going to be good because you're learning. So, just be compassionate with yourself as you go through this. So when we're looking at the picture plane, this is our picture plane. Whatever size that is, 18 by 24. I think this is an 8.5 by 11, actually. Most of you are working, hopefully, on 9 by 12 inches. So when we think about this, we think about how we can create that recession, how we can draw that eye backwards or here or upwards, whatever. So we want to split this into 3 different planes. So how do we do that? So we're going to do that through line weight and through the drawing of perspective. So let's just draw a horizon line. It's very arbitrary. I obviously am not looking, well, you wouldn't know this, but I'm at home. I'm not looking at a building. So thinking about this, right there, very common type of horizon line. So now we have a foreground. So any object that is going to be, right in front, that's going to be in your foreground. We have a mid ground, and then we have a background. So anything into those farther reaches. Anything in your foreground, this is another device used to show where the viewer is at, is going to be larger, and it will be in front of, or it'll be overlapping objects that are in the back. That makes sense to us. It's, that's how we see anyways. So I'm going to draw a building, just whatever. You can follow along with me. So maybe its base is here. I'm going to draw lightly just to kind of get my sketches in. You always want to start pretty light, nothing serious. That way you're also, you can go back and darken lines, but it's hard to go through and brighten them back up. And then let's say we've got, this will be in 1 point perspective. So maybe our vanishing point is right there in the middle. And then we can do something over here. Well, let's do another building, maybe back here or whatever. So if I'm thinking about objects I haven't finished this building, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me just finish this building out real quick. So all of the points on the edge of this building are going to come back to one central vanishing point, right? That's central perspective or frontal perspective. And then this will be the edge of the building. And then we can just erase these lines. Unless you're also doing, other objects here, and this is just a 1 point perspective, they will all go back to this one vanishing point. Even if I did a building over here, let's just, I'll just do this all in 1 point perspective. So I'm gonna bring another building back here. So this will kind of be in my mid. And then we'll make this kind of a long box or a long building. Okay. All right, so now it's gonna be too dark. Something about me is I'm an absolute perfectionist when it comes to things or wanting things to be right. So that's my issue. Okay, so when we're thinking about objects that are right in the foreground, not only are they bigger, but the lines are going to be more defined and darker. So I'm going to go through and darken this box. Because this is a frontal perspective, right? This is all on the same plane as this is on the same plane, but in the midground. We'll get there. But when our lines start to recede, this is where your fine motor skills are going to start picking up. You're gradually going to want to lighten your pressure because things get lighter as they recede. So it can start out a little dark and then just go a little bit lighter. See how that is working? You can even go and firm it up a little bit more. My pencil's starting to get a little dull, so you can tell just by the thickness of the line. Okay, and moving back this way. And then this line that is connecting them would be the same tonal value as these farther reaches. So maybe even starting a little lighter and then building up. Okay, fine. So now we need to think about where this value is in relationship to the objects that are receding, objects in the back. So we can make this a little bit darker just to give us some room to move. doesn't need to be anything super severe. Okay, so, but this is still lighter than this. So moving over here, this box is behind this. So right around that same value, and then just like the other one, you'll start a little bit more and then lift up. And then maybe, I don't know. It kind of just depends. Maybe it's getting a little too light there, but that's okay too. All right, so essentially that's what I'm looking for in your first project. Obviously, you can go through and add windows. If I were to add windows to this, everything is still going back to that vanishing point, right? And it's going to look silly, kind of, and it's going to look a little skewed, but that's okay. You have to trust when you see your sighting and, drawing from observation. You just have to trust that what you see is there. That'll make more sense as you go, because your brain is actually trying to I don't know how to describe this. I guess it's like manipulating what you see a little bit. But essentially those would, these lines are always going to be parallel. Or something like that. You get what I'm going for there. Your brain is always trying to like put things together, probably trying to make sense of a lot. At the same time, it's a safety mechanism that we have. So when you're learning to see, that's really what drawing is. You're learning, how to almost like negotiate the space between what you're seeing and what your brain is telling you that you're seeing. That may seem a little nebulous and complicated, but essentially it's just patience with yourself and just practice. So hopefully that helps. Please reach out with any questions, of course. Thanks. Okay, so I want to talk over some past work from other students who I have presented this project to. These students have, I didn't have the stipulation in the past project that you couldn't, or that there wasn't really a need to use value or shading. So you'll see some of that in here. There's one person who doesn't add that. Do not add shading or value. Don't waste your time. You're not going to do it correctly. The chances of you doing it correctly are not great yet, but we're going to learn that next time. So that's really not what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for the structure and the buildup. So the student was Avery. You can see that they've done both a bird's eye and a worm's eye perspective. In the foreground, it is a bird's eye, and in the background, it is a worm's eye. Here's another one, combining a linear perspective on our right-hand side here, and then a 2-point perspective. Almost a little bit of a worm's eye there too, but okay, here's another one that this is more what I'm looking for, although I've gotten better at instruction. I'm still learning. We're all always learning. This student has not executed the line weight correctly, you'll notice that these are all kind of the same line weight. That's not, how that kind of goes and what I've already previously talked about. But in regards to line work, this is what I'm looking for, that contour line. We're just looking to define the structure, not adding the value. This is another option if you wanted to do this. These students also are working on an 18 by 24 inch picture plane, unfortunately, because this is an online class. And there was no fee. I don't have 18 by 24 to give you, and I didn't want to require that because it gets expensive to buy paper, so keeping budget in mind. But this is another option if you want to bisect your plane and doing those two different views together. This is going to be linear, almost bird's eye. This is, if this was being drawn by us, we're probably maybe also at a parking garage or this third floor. And here's another drawing of somebody's, maybe where their cat hangs out. So this is going to be a 1-point perspective and a 2-point perspective. And then just to reiterate those Escher drawings, this MC Escher, thinking about this in this curvilinear perspective coming straight out to us in regards to this narrative, instead of this just being another window that we're seeing, this window is hyper-focused on. So we're led to, as the viewer, we're led to think about, why is this so special? What are we seeing here? And then it goes into a 2-point perspective. And it's a 2-point perspective because we're, seeing these vantage points would be one was over here and another would be over there. And here is the other Escher. So us being in a bird's eye looking down, right? So we would have a vantage, or not a vantage point. Our vantage point is, wherever we're at. But a vanishing point would be one out here, one maybe out there. And then, actually the horizon would be up here, excuse me. So going out that way, and then down. So now we're in a worm's eye. So thinking about how they've kind of patched that together, and he used shadow to kind of work that out, or, we're now in the crevice of the ceiling. So thinking about that in your own process as well.